if all your competitors are writing content and building links at a natural pace, and you just go top heavy, you just build 100 links, and you're not doing any content, Google's like, well, that makes no sense. This site is getting linked.
Hey everyone, I'm joined this week by Liam Cook. Liam started working with me about 7 years ago now, and since then his head has been buried pretty deep in the world of link building. He's since gone off and started his own agency. He's done a bit of in the affiliate world since then as well. He's now heavily focused on the link building side of things with his agency Millenio. Liam, I'll let you take it from here because you can probably explain it all better than me. Do you want to just give yourself a quick intro?
Yeah, it's 7 years ago. It's crazy. I always look back at some
Nuts.
points and I'm like, time has just absolutely flown. Martin was one of the ones who originally taught me some of the basics when I got started. But yeah, basically just started in link building, so some of the older, dirtier tactics at the time, somebody profound those, made them better. But yeah, I started my own affiliate sites whilst I was working, just as like an interest at home. Just kind of bored of TV and other stuff, so I started enjoying like building little sites that I could do, writing some guides, and then over time scaled that up, used like my link building skills to do that. And I went solo, I think the year before the pandemic, or someone around then. And just went full in on the agency. At this time I did already have some clients and stuff, so but mostly just like small time stuff. I wanted to do my own thing. I wasn't really like big on the idea of clients. I just really wanted to do kind of the affiliate side. But Google sort of put an end to that in 2020 when they were just pummeled everyone promoting garbage products, which to be fair was fair enough. That's kind of sad, but it kind of had to be done. And just obviously, if anyone doesn't know, everyone was going online just looking for best guides during the pandemic because you couldn't see those guides, those products in person. So obviously Google finally found a way to close down these sites. I'm not really sure how, but they got real smart real fast. And then Martin was on the receiving end of that as well. You know, he had some sites in there. And then I went into e-commerce, built like a mobility site that went really well. But we just had supplier problems, so that sort of taught me to always own your supply chain when you're doing e-commerce. But yeah, now predominantly focused only on agency, still building up a little sites here and there, but just solely link focus for agency. And like in the last year, it's going really well. Finally took on like a household name, which was really like the cementer for me. It all just sort of like didn't feel like legit before. I was just sort of building a team remotely mostly. But when you get someone that's sort of like a household name, that was really cemented my work, and I don't know, made it feel real for me, so it's quite nice.
Yeah, cool. The affiliate side of things, that was quite painful for a lot of people, I think, wasn't it? I think you sold one of them, I think, didn't you? So you kind of did all right out of it, but yeah, I think a lot of people got stung by that. I think the people who are still going are the ones who take it really, really seriously and treat it like their full-time business.
Yeah, I was quite lucky to sub one. I don't know why they bought it on the decline. It was still doing pretty well, but relative to where it was, I took a massive hit on the valuation. But I can only be grateful that it did sell. I looked at it now ever since, and it's just gone through the earth. I don't know how anyone's still running that. I think you have to be so amazingly good at affiliate. You have to be literally getting that product in hand, reviewing it. You need to be writing tons of articles around other stuff and not be so money orientated just purely on the guides. I think there's a real nuance to it now, and if anyone's doing it well, but it is just such a bear trap. Like you tread on anything wrong doing an affiliate now, it looks like those sites just kind of tank.
I think you could get away in the past with all right sites, but just bolster it with link building, couldn't you?
Yeah, I also actually doing. To be fair, now I see a lot of people branching into other stuff. Like a lot of people doing like casino review sites. Obviously, there's like the tech sites, but that's super competitive. Just like I saw one the other day, which was quite interesting. I'm actually going to look into it a bit further, but I'll happily share the other day. It was like a tire review site. It was making like quite a lot of money, and they just review tires through affiliate links. That's quite interesting. Doing really well. So
that's quite niche.
Still like but I think Amazon's sort of dead. realistically. Maybe some of the other ones, like just the advanced link and all that stuff.
Yeah, I suppose moving back onto the link building side of things, like people could get away with more even just a few years ago on the affiliate side of things, but any sites really. But I think with more recent updates over the last few years, quality's become much more of a factor now, and I guess it will continue to become more of a factor. But certainly in the last few years, link quality has become more of a factor. And I think from talking to you, have you seen that as well in on the agency side of things?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people look when they're building, they're like, oh, it's a high DR site. Oh, it's got quite a lot of traffic. Great, I'm going to get a link from it. Okay, well, it's got one of the categories that's relevant to me. But if you actually dig deep into that, those traffic that it's getting are just a lot of times from like error messages, or like it might be like a news site, but then if you look at the keywords it's ranking for, it's about some model's nudes or something, or just completely irrelevant, just like garbage. So it's not going to carry any weight if you're trying to link that news site to maybe like a cosmetic site when it's just talking about error messages on Gmail or something. So I think people need to look a little bit deeper into the sites that they're actually getting links from. I'd rather DR50 that has like a really nice natural keyword profile. It's not just posting about random spammy topics, than a DR70 that has 100k traffic, but it's just pure garbage traffic, like just like I say, error messages, nudes, or anything that's super low competition that you can literally rank for with spam and get traffic for. That's like zero value.
What sort of things do you look for? Obviously, you probably still look at traffic and the quality of links, so DR or whatever metric. What other things do you look for then to make sure you're not falling down that trap?
So first off, yeah, we base it by DR, so we'll look at the DR, and then we'll look at the referring domains as well as the traffic, and then we'll dig deeper and we'll go into Ahrefs, we'll look at the top keywords that it's ranking for. So we'll say, okay, what niche is this? If it's a business site, okay, are the keywords that it's ranking for business related, yes or no? I don't really care if that site's only got 2k traffic. If all those links, all those keywords are relevant, it might just have a bad on-site SEO, or they're just not really like set up to do that well. But if it's all relevant to its niche and it's not suddenly posting about horoscopes or something like that, then I'm quite happy to deem that as high quality site. Also go onto the site and just see if it's posting a lot of how-to guides. If it's just sort of generic link kind of spam, do those guides have a little bit of value, at least for the reader? And then we just sort of classify those by like high, medium, and low. So like high quality would be true to its niche, nice keywords. Yeah, that's basically it, and not posting about like sort of spammy topics. And then the DR and traffic are sort of relevant to that, because if those things are good, then that DR is what we base it on. Sort of middle tier would be something that's posting maybe in a lot of categories that aren't related to each other. They shouldn't be related to each other. So if you're talking about business but you're also talking about health, then it's a little bit suspect. Also, you're just posting a lot of how-to guides, etc. Like, we would deem that mid quality, because if it's still got traffic and those keywords that it's ranking for are actually legit, then Google doesn't hate the site, but I don't really think it's that genuine. But some people still do want those, and they do kind of work, but again, they're sort of ones that I think will get more and more phased out. So I think it's always best to steer towards the high quality. Low quality would just be like anything, like I say, with keywords around like nudes, error messages and stuff like that. I think a lot of these got wiped out in like September, October. It was quite interesting for the update. Everyone said that the link update came in December, but all of the sites that were spammy tanked in around October. So all of those dropped, and then 1 or 2 months later, then people who were getting links from those sites dropped. So there's that sort of, again, like a ghosting effect that I always notice. Whenever you do link building, you always got to wait 3 months to see results. So I think where those sites tanked, 3 months later, the results hit everyone else almost as well. And obviously they did the update. But Google's steering more towards now, instead of being like, okay, you've been bad, just black mark on your site, right? I think they're much more lenient now. But the scope,
I think they ignore more, don't they? Is that safe to say? They with those rubbish links, rather than giving you a hit of some sort or a manual penalty or something like that, they just tend to ignore the not so great quality links.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately as well, like, there's the possibility, like, if they did take the bad links into account, then anyone can just black hat SEO you, right, and just pummel you with bad links and then you drop in the list.
Yeah.
Also, like, you might just get those naturally. Even if you're doing organic link building, right? People are like, oh, you shouldn't pay for links. But even if you're doing organic PR, you don't really have a choice who picks up your article and links back to you. You might be getting garbage sites there anyway. So there's no real way to do it. And you're not, unless you're like an amazing SEO, you're not going to be like, if you're doing just standard PR and you've just got a really great product and brand, you don't know where you're getting your links from. So you could be getting a load of garbage for all you know. You just think, oh, a link, and then you're getting sort of garbage. But I think Google takes a lot more into account now. So it's not just links. Whereas before, I think the pie was smaller and it was like 80, 90% geared towards links. And if you had like sort of garbage just content, but your content was okay, your site wasn't that in depth, you could just pummel it with links and it would rank. It was just how many links did you have versus your competitor. I think links are still important, but now that pie's got a lot bigger. So it looks at content, it looks at site interaction. So you're not just going to be number one with like a load of good links. You need some good links. You need to have good site interaction. So, okay, people come to your site, they're interacting well, they're doing what they should be doing on the site. Google sees what it expects to see on the site. So if it's someone searching for a category of products, is your page a category of products? And then also the content as well. Does it answer all the questions that that person is looking for? So I've seen quite a few, like a couple of clients, they just, before they start with us, they pummeled page with like, this one client pummeled a page with 100 links, a load of them like garbage, but because they're putting out like 150 pages a month, like really high quality blog content, they're doing massive PPC campaign, Google's now just completely written off that page. That page refuses to rank at all. When they came on, I said, look, we need to just redirect it off the URL, maybe we can take away the taintiness, just send a couple of links, let's just try if we can actually get it to start to rank again. But like, it is just not having any of it. So weirdly now it's like localized to that page where it's just like, you're not ranking this page, but everything else is ranking nicely, which is kind of strange. Because I just think that Google's like, okay, well, they did this bad, but they're doing a great content strategy, they're doing a great PPC campaign, everyone's interacting with their site properly, so I'm not going to tarnish them completely, but yeah, this page is burnt, which is really interesting. I've started to see that more and more in the last updates. It's getting a lot smarter.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of that more page level stuff as well, and it is a much fairer way of doing it. In all fairness, isn't it? Because with the example you're talking about, if all of that other content is great, why shouldn't it rank just because one page is tainted?
Yeah, I think they're just a lot smarter now as well. They're just much better at reading what's on a page, reading if the links are natural. I think they've just got a lot better now. But we are seeing some more like, I don't know, like what one client, they also have like a couple other providers they use because they do a bit of PR and stuff. I definitely think they're building some other shady stuff, but again, their site is very, very good quality. They saw a massive drop in like January, emailed like, okay, like we've seen huge drops, like 50% drops on our stuff. End of February, a new update came out. I think this is a site quality update as well, and just sort of reversal. And they've just pretty much regrown all of their traffic already. I've never seen someone regain pretty much everything within like a month. So that was kind of interesting. So now they're back again. They want to build links. So,
well, we know. I mean, we've spoken about this a number of times, and we've both seen the effects. Even recently, seen the effects of link building. And we know that link building is still a big factor, and it still works really well. Although quality is much more of a factor these days. And something I mentioned on a previous video was that a small Facebook group I run. One of the questions when people try to access that is, what is the main thing you're struggling with regarding SEO at the moment? And pretty much everyone, most of the answers are either technical SEO or link building, and I'll probably say the majority are link building. So that's why I thought this would be really useful, because a lot of people, I think, from talking to some of those guys, they don't know where to start. So we've spoken a bit about the prospecting side of things and how to determine quality, but what about the actual tactics themselves and the link types? Like, what do you think is the best approach to take these days? Are people best starting with guest posting, or where would you advise someone to start when it comes to what tactics they use?
So I don't really see a difference between niche edits and guest posts. Like, depending on your category, depending on how hard it is to find niche edits. If you came to me and you were like selling some custom tool in some serious niche and you said, I want niche edits, it's going to be impossible because nobody's writing about that. If we're inserting into like something about suits or something generic like flowers, it's pretty well spoken about, so we can include that naturally into an article. I think Google's
Just
quite happy
quickly,
with the
for anyone who's not sure, do you want to just explain the difference between guest posting and niche edits, or sometimes referred to as link insertions, aren't they? But it's the same thing. But yeah, do you want to just explain the difference and then?
Yeah, so niche edit is where we insert a link into, or a link insertion into an existing article already. So it might be like an older article. Generally, these articles can have some strength already. They might have some links behind them. They're already aged and indexed, so they'll probably get crawled faster. But you don't get any control over the content quality, so their wider quality might be lesser. There might also be some competitor links, depending on niche. Some niches, there's just so many people building in that space that you'd rarely find an article that doesn't have one. Or there might be some other links to people with similar services or complementary services. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but guest post is where you just do a brand new article on a site written by us or you, and then that would just include your link. But I often find as well, like 6 to 12 months down the line, if you're doing guest posts, you'll often find that webmaster will resell links on your article. Like if we're doing a niche edit, they say it has to be a year old before they'll insert our links, so they are inserting links into your post anyway. I don't think there's any better value for each. Niche edits are cheaper, and so in terms of ROI, if you've got smaller budget, it's a much better route to go down. If you're doing it on scale, guest posts are much easier, just because like the volume it's just much more easier to manage. So yeah, I mean, it's really up to you. I think you can do a bit of both. It's not better to do one or the other. It's just really up to you.
And I guess for someone starting out who's thinking, I really need to get on top of link building, I haven't really done any yet, I suppose those two tactics are the best to get started with, aren't they?
Oh yeah, we don't really do much else. We do a little bit of PR, like occasional like Harrow links. These are sort of more to get your big newspapers like Sun, Metro, stuff like that. They're a little bit less reliable, so it could be like months before you get one. You might get loads in 1 month. Generally as well, like some of those links are going to be sort of middle tier, the same links that you'll be getting guest posts on. So we often find that a lot of the ones that come up in Harrow are sites that we actually just get guest posts on anyway. But you end up paying a lot more for them because it does take a lot more work to get them, because obviously the webmaster's not getting paid, so they're going to make it a little bit more difficult for you. But that's also a good strategy to diversify. But I think if you're starting out, like just stay away from like Harrow PR. It's just so expensive for the value that you get. But if you want to start to build like a really reputable brand, it's good to maybe add a bit of PR in. So maybe you're getting a couple of Sun links. You're also getting these middle tier guest post links as well going in there, because the Harrow PR side won't link to internal pages. They'll be just branded homepage. Which is important to, I think, probably talk about that in a bit, where you need at least 30% of your links going to the homepage if you've not got like a massive site, just to keep things a little bit natural. So it could be a bit of a strategy there. But I think those are the main ways. There's also like citation link building for local services, which are kind of important. So if you have a local business on Google Maps, it is important to do citations there. Citations are generally cheap, but like a lot of the providers that you use will be just sort of like random directories, so maybe again that's something you do manual, but it's going to take a lot of time, or you pay a lot for each one. So yeah, I would say that's all the type of link building. You can do like link reclamation and stuff like that. People say that they have some success with it, but you just want to sort of streamline stuff, right? You just want to keep it easy. And I don't see any.
Yeah, I think with the link reclamation, I think you need more of an established brand for that, don't you? You need people that are talking about you, so you can then go and grab those. With the citation side of things, have you used any services that you find better than others that deserve a shout out?
I mean, I haven't really reviewed them personally that much, but local citation services has always been pretty good for us. I wouldn't say the directories are super localized, but they're pretty cheap and they seem to do the job. Yeah,
I think there's a few options out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. I think just shop around and actually just assess the quality that you're getting. I wouldn't say that I have a be all end all like the best ones. But But yeah, if you want to get those super local ones, you want to be paying like a fair bit of money. They're quite expensive. Again, I haven't really assessed the quality of those as much. We're mostly just geared towards niche edits, guest posts, and others, because a lot of people there like don't see the value in citations. They don't want to pay like a lot of money for each one for a good one. So then you either look like give them the rubbish ones. So I usually just say to people, look, you build the citations, we'll build the links. That's generally what I say, but we do recommend them to build some if they're doing a local campaign. Like we do say that you should be doing some citations as well.
It is quite important for local SEO, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't know whether
Something you mentioned a minute ago was about the ratios, and I think it's probably worth going back to that, because I think people listening who haven't really delved into the link building side of things, it's probably important to realize that they need to think about things like diversification, making sure they got plenty of links going to the homepage. It's natural. Most of their anchors to the domain as a whole are branded or URLs. So it's probably, I think we should probably touch on that rather than people hammering in exact match anchors, which is going to hurt them. So it's probably worth touching on this, because anchor text, again, to follow on from that, is an important factor as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this goes bigger than that as well. If you are doing link building, if your site's brand new, only do branded for the first 3 to 4 months. Just get a bit of brand behind it. Just keep it super natural. Maybe the first 2 to 3 months. I'd say you always want to be doing at least 30% to your homepage, and then you can do up to 70% to your internal pages. Don't sort of bomb it onto one page. Generally what I say is, like, I will look at the pages individually. We'll have, depending on the budget, maybe 2 targets, 3 targets. I will look at the competition of those pages as well, and just get an idea of how much that page needs. Send each of those pages like 1 or 2 links from that 70%. See which one bites the most. Or as well, you can tell from the competition who's ranking above, how strong are they. And then, yeah, just sort of maybe bring the focus down to that page, like a couple of pages, just so that you know that you're spreading your links properly. But I think the other really important thing with link building as well, and people don't realize, I think this is a factor that's coming more. I sort of noticed it like a couple of years ago, but I think now more than ever, like I see it, is that expertise, authority, and trust was something that came up a couple of years ago, right? It started to become quite big. I think that was when the health update came out, and it just decimated a lot of the pharmaceutical sites, because all of that content wasn't medically approved. And now you're getting all these people talking about the strategy where you can just write a topic on everything in your niche, and then suddenly you can just rank without even building any links, because Google starts to see you as an authority. So I think sites sort of fall into a couple of categories. You have eCommerce, you have like a content-based site, obviously, and then a local site. You want to be covering all of those topics in your space as you're building links. So if you're in a content space and there's 1,000 or 2,000 topics to write about, if you're not writing anything and you're building 100 links, I think Google almost has this like spam filter where it's like, okay, a natural progression of the site would be posting 10, 20, 30 articles a month. They'll be getting X amount of links. Okay, because they're posting that amount of content, it makes sense that they're getting the amount of links. But if all your competitors are writing content and building links at a natural pace, and you just go top heavy, you just build 100 links, and you're not doing any content, Google's like, well, that makes no sense. This site is getting links. I'm going to penalize it. So that's the other strategy, is you need to be doing that. If you're in e-commerce, you can quickly cover all of the individual keywords and categories that you need to. So this is why you never really see that many e-commerce sites tank, because it's quite hard for them to figure out those that are doing it unnaturally. Like, I rarely see e-commerce sites get hit. Also, I think as well, I do say this, but I often find that PPC campaigns do help a little bit with SEO, just with like ranking and like interaction rates. But yeah, anyway, coming back to that, I think you need to have an encompassing strategy and understand your area, and keep pushing to become an expert authority figure in your space whilst building those links, and making sure those links are just sort of trickling to pages that you deem low enough competition that you'll be able to rank. Because, like, for example, the other client, they just wanted to rank for one term. They just sent 100 links to that page, and it just completely burnt it. They lost a lot of money just by doing that because they tunnel visioned on that. So I would just sort of move the links around, find something that starts to rank and bites well, that Google likes that page, and then just start to funnel more in on that. Just to be a bit more tactical with it, because link building is expensive, so you need to make sure that you're doing it in the right ways. I think that's why people struggle. That it's so expensive and I'm getting nowhere. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because you're doing it a little bit wrong. You're just trying to rank for something that's insanely competitive that you're never going to get it. Where yeah, you could just have these like long tail stuff that will start making you money in the short to medium term, and then once you get bigger, you can start to go over those heavier competition terms. So it's good to just have a
That's
strategy.
a problem, isn't it? If you're not doing it right, you can burn a lot of money.
Yeah, I see that a lot. But yeah, I think it's just having that in mind that you need to care about your site, right? Like, I think people who go really heavy on links, they just want it now, they want to win, but it needs to just sort of become your passion, your thing, that you're just building those. And that's why I think a lot of people do struggle with that, because now it's so much to do, right? You need to be writing the best content, you need to be updating that content, you need to be doing link building, that's good, you need to make sure your site metrics are good. So suddenly it's a lot harder. But I think you can be a little bit less heavy on certain things, like whereas people before just throw your money in link building. Okay, take a bit of that money, put it into content. Take a bit of that money, put it into your site. Take a bit and put it into your links. If all of those other things are good, you've covered every base. Okay, now you can go into links fully. And I think that's just having it in mind when you're sort of building it, that you're building it naturally.
You mentioned e-commerce a minute ago. Do you think this is all a little bit different for e-commerce? Because I know with content sites, you, even yourself, we've had this chat before where you've been ramping up content production and then you've eased off and it's been very quiet for a while and you've actually seen everything dip off because you're not being consistent anymore. But e-commerce is a little bit different, right? How do you think it differs in terms of link building and content production? By that, I mean kind of supporting content and blog content, when actually the main focus of an e-commerce site is the categories and the products. Do you think it differs quite a bit from those other types of sites?
Yeah, I literally don't think you need to be posting that much content on an e-commerce. A lot of times as well, like, you'll find there's not that much in your space that's actually relevant to what you're selling, unless you want to start like a big blog on the side. I think it's important to have guides that are relevant to people buying. So if someone's buying something, okay, there's these guides that sort of teach, and there's going to be some volume and keywords around that. I think it's important to cover those. But once you start getting into fluffy topics, like what you should, if you were selling, I don't know, like flowers, okay, just like a random guide about what flowers to put in a vase or something like that. I don't know. Like, it just needs to be relevant to what your person is buying, and that needs to add value to the user, because if that user stays on your site longer, you're going to get better interaction rates, then your e-commerce is going to rank better, Google's going to get that, and you're going to do well on those interaction side. But I think once you cover all of your categories and all of the how-to guides that help that user, and you integrate them well onto your site, I think you can literally just go ham on link building. I don't think I've not really seen any e-commerce tank. I mean, touch wood. The only ones I see tank are just from like mostly like technical issues. So they're just doing something wrong on site. Like, I don't know, they did pagination wrong or they indexed the wrong pages, and then it just takes them ages to get out that. But generally speaking, unless you're doing garbage link building, I don't think you need to be doing these big content productions on e-commerce sites. I think just focus your money into either links or building your site better.
What about something we touched on a minute ago, anchors? What about, because I think this is important to touch on because people can get this very wrong and it can just ruin everything they're doing in terms of link building. What advice have you got in terms of what anchor text people should be using, assuming that when they're building links, they've got control over those anchor texts?
Yeah, so generally speaking, we would look at the person ranking top for that keyword, and then we look at all of the keywords on, say, Ahrefs or something like that, and we just look at what anchors we could use from that. So we just use those as well as variations from like LSI keywords. So if you were talking about selling a bicycle, you just say a bicycle or something like that. Just making sure it varies all the time. Just obviously not exact match are fine. Like, I'm not against it, but when you have too many exact match, that's when it starts to get a bit shady. So just making sure you're varying it as much as possible. I don't really believe in the click here, open this, or see here anchors. I don't really do those personally. You can do them. I don't really think they provide a lot of value. And we've seen this actually a lot in the local SEO. So one thing I will say about local SEO is everyone's sort of scared to add locational anchors in there, because why would a site somewhere up the country be linking to, okay, maybe a site in London or something like that? It makes no sense. But adding that location into the anchor makes a world of difference in terms of actually ranking. And one client was, they didn't want to do it for ages. They were just doing like injury lawyers or something like that, but they were localized to like a small area. And I was like, look, let's just try a couple months where we had the location, and we did it and just skyrocketed the site. But the way to keep that natural is like just add it in as a comment. So, okay, if you are a plumber in some area, okay, people are talking about how many leaks there are or in the area, that I don't know, and it's like added someone plumber who's a plumber in X area, you know, and then just link plumber in X area. Well, obviously you wouldn't put area, but that's the way to just keep it natural on those local anchors.
I think an important thing to maybe mention there is by comment, you mean like a quote within the content, right? So and so from these plumbers in Brighton or wherever said this. So you mean that sort of quote?
Yeah. So just something like that. So then it's just kind of natural that maybe a site up the country is just linking back to you, right? It actually makes a bit of sense, because I definitely think Google reads the context. So like now, obviously with the advent of AI as well, but I think they were getting better at this before anyway. They can actually read the context of the link. So if it doesn't make sense in the body, if it doesn't make sense, link back to you, and then just sort of cover your ass. But that seems to work very well for local SEO.
Yeah, I think quotes are a good way to get around some things. The reason I wanted to just make that distinction is because, like you mentioned, a comment, but within the body content, obviously. But I still see people using actual blog comments as link building tactics, and it's just awful. It just doesn't. I saw a site once a few years back, and they asked me to look at it, and they said, you know, we're really struggling. Like link building's happening every month. And I had to look at their links, and the link graph was going up and up and up. But all of their anchors were either Diana or Amanda. And it was just comment spam. They were just doing constant comment spam and linking the name Diana or Amanda. And their traffic was going just down like that. So yeah, no, stay away from comment links.
Those, yeah, I didn't mean those. I mean just like quotes in there.
Yeah.
Content. And that's a great way to add branded in as well, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to add branded. So what a lot of people try and do is like commercially talk about their brand. So you might be talking about cleaning your like your business office, and then they'll be like, this cleaning company offers the best cleaning, and it's like, well, obviously that nobody would even ever speak about your brand in that article. So just be like, okay, the best way to do it for you, the best way to increase employee morale is use a cleaner, blah blah blah. Added someone from, I mean, probably not the best quote, but then now you can just mention the brand because it's a person from that brand. It makes a little bit more sense then. That's definitely something that we push towards, just making it seem natural in the article, right?
Yeah, even just as simple as we spoke to so and so from this brand link, and they said X. Just something as simple as that can work well, I think, can't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that sort of covers everything on that angle.
Yeah. Moving into more the kind of how-tos. So I think people are aware they need to do this prospecting, make sure they're focused on quality, make sure they're thinking about those anchors and things like that. But how, if someone wants to get started with this themselves, how do they get started? How do they go about doing that prospecting and then outreaching? And what's the best way to outreach as well? Because people get inundated with so much, don't they? Is it just a volume game, or is there just a smarter way to do it? So yeah, kind of more of the how-to. How do people get going?
I would just look at your competitors to start. Obviously, that's a good place to go. If you've got like any tool that can look at the links that your competitor has, just export that. Run it through like a mail recovery tool like Ninja or any of the other ones that just sort of bring up the mailing address, and then just, yeah, it's just a volume game really. That's sort of what it is. And generally speaking, we say, look, okay, you're going to email 1,000 people, maybe like 50 to 100 will reply, and then you need to narrow those down to ones that are like good quality and relevant to you. Maybe you get like 5 or 10 out of that. It's a very time consuming process, but I think it's better to be much more picky on those sites instead of just taking everything that comes your way. You always negotiate with webmasters. You can easily get, like, they're always going to try to bill you. Unless you can go and just be like, we're going to provide like an amazingly high quality article. If it's super relevant, it can work sometimes. I do know some people who get like free place links, but if you just want to skip the friction, generally it's best to just pay. But you can negotiate it quite a lot with them. So that's the sort of best way to go. But yeah, just go and say, look, we'd love to write for your site. You could even do it like, I know some people now using ChatGPT to just write like a pitch. Okay, I saw you wrote an article on this. Maybe I could write an article on this in a similar category. What do you think? Something like that. And then maybe they'll come back. They'll be like, okay, we're going to bill for this. Or they'd say, we'd love that article. And if you actually spend a lot of time writing that content and making it really nice, spend a lot of research, you could probably get it posted. It really depends on the route that you want to go down. Neither is better than the other, just as long as you are getting high quality sites regardless. But that is the most time consuming part, just finding sites that will link back to you or accept your article.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense to start with competitor links, right? Because I guess it gives you a higher chance if they've already linked out to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally as well going to be kind of relevant. I mean, if someone's ranking top, they've probably got some decent links in there. You could even just go in and handpick them, and it depends on the volume that you want to be putting out. If you're not doing that many, you could probably just go in, handpick them, email them. We do a lot of manual stuff as well, because like some of the good sites, they would just hide their emails. A lot of sites that don't even want to consider it or don't want to just emails, they even like thought about guest posting. We've definitely found some sites before that like, what is the link building? And they're like, okay, we'll sell you links. So just a manual approach sometimes tends to be the best, but we just do both pretty much, like a volume and a manual approach. But again, just really depends on how many you want to be putting out.
Yeah. Have you got any advice on hiring for these sorts of things? Because obviously, you've got a team now with the agency, but things like for someone who's starting out, things like outreach or prospecting and outreach, or whether the same person does those. Sometimes hard just to find the right people. Have you got any tips on kind of finding people to do that and just making sure you get the right person in place, but they're doing the job well as well?
I mean, if you want to go down the really like high tier PR route where you're getting free placements, you want to be hiring someone with amazing English, right? You'd probably want to be paying them quite decently. They'll be responding to some like Harrow requests, writing like really detailed pitches for you, really interesting pieces. That's one route. Or you could just hire, we do a lot of people from Serbia, so very reliable people, hard workers, not too expensive, and we have like strict outreach processes, negotiation processes, where they just, as well as tools that they use to basically just scale up those outreach. So we've used people from all over, but generally we find that the Serbians are the most reliable and the most affordable. They're just very happy.
Do you use separate people for prospecting and outreach, or do you have the same people doing both?
Prospecting is not really that difficult, right? Like we'll often just export. We also use like crawlers, so we'll crawl the web for certain keywords. So if people are looking for travel, we'll just crawl the whole web for anything that mentions travel. Prospecting is not very difficult. It's the outreach that takes the time, because you can use any tools. I think there's like Mailmerge out there that's free to use. That will send out campaigns to you if you can just get a tool to scrape the emails. I think the tools that scrape the emails are kind of expensive. I mean, I know the one we use is, I don't know if there's probably cheaper options. That tends to be the most expensive bit, but yeah, you could just find a load, handpick the sites first. But then also, then the problem is that they might not actually link back to you. So, but yeah, I would say that we use the same people to prospect and outreach. We'll often use like a range of strategies to find those sites, maybe competitors, maybe we've just finished a scrape on like a load of keywords that's like 200,000 sites in there. People just grab a bit from that list, and we often filter them out based on a criteria. That's one thing I will say. So we do anything above DR30, often like above like 500 traffic as well, as like a baseline filter, and we take anything from like DR90 to like DR80 or something, pretty much like your Facebooks, your MSN, all that crap, like Google.com. We take all those out using like a find and replace. to get those out. So just really narrow it down, because if you're just sending a load of emails to sites that are never going to link to you, or ones that are just so rubbish that you don't even want to get a link from, you're going to make your efforts a lot tougher. But it is just really a volume game. But also you can be super picky on one side and it could work. You can also be in the volume game, but you're going to be filtering through a lot of emails, people saying, yeah, I'll do it, and then you look at the site and it's rubbish. Or and as well, like now more and more webmasters, because they know it's getting tougher out there, or their sites are getting burned faster, a lot of them are trying to charge a lot more. So we get quite lucky, because obviously if like someone wants to build a lot, we say, look, we'll send you like a bulk order, or we'll just get like a deal because we're going to send you a lot. So I think you can, some webmasters, we even negotiate like 50-60%, and like even you can do that on your own, I think, as well. Like you say, I don't think this is worth it. So actually, I will say, actually have an idea in your head how much that site is worth. So we usually we have like a list of what we will pay. So for sites like DR50, but it's got really good traffic, the site looks amazing, I'm willing to pay more for that. So DR50's traffic's kind of low, looks a bit shady, not shady, but like not amazing. We're going to pay a lot less for that. So we have like a kind of criteria, and we say, look, if they come back really high, we say, well, we don't think your site is worth this. This is what we're willing to pay. You sort of like negotiate, always be willing to walk away. Like if you just really don't want to pay it, like we've walked away and just said, no, we'll leave it. And then often they'll come back and they'll just say, actually, we'll go for it, or something like that. So you just need to be good on that side, where you're just willing to go back and forth with someone and just really hammering the price, because you can easily shave like 50% off a lot of the time.
I remember like when we first met back 7 years ago, and you started in the link building side of things. I remember you being the haggle king.
Yeah, I definitely burnt some bridges with people. They're like, I'm not paying that. I'm not taking that. I'm like, okay, well, we're not using you anymore. You're done. And then like we just ignore them for months. But we really want to buy links from them, but we just need to like put them in their place. And then they eventually come back. Or like we have like long emails on how like we'd love to keep working with them. And like you have to be quite stern with these webmasters, because they're always just going to try and take you for a ride, right?
Yeah,
but they
exactly.
need to start more. So now it's like harder than ever to run a site that's selling links, because they have to be posting genuine content and stuff like that. Also, if they're not set up for that, but they need to be running a genuine site, and that costs money. So, and they're always going to try to get as much as possible. And those better sites are going to be more money.
Do you with the outreach messaging, do you try varying that up as well and test different approaches with that, or do you tend to find you've just got something that works now and you stick with that?
Yeah, I think we just pretty much stick with one. And we did test quite a lot at the start. I think actually having like a branded domain email actually helps a lot. So if you're just messaging off a johnbob232@gmail.com, less likely to reply. If you're messaging at your domain email, or like a domain email, you got a picture set up, you got a signature set up, people are much more likely to respond. That's something I will say. But yeah, just play around with topic. If you make your topic too vague, people just think it's spam. If you made it too I think the aggressive topics generally work better. We want to write for your site. We got amazing content for your site. We'll pay it. Or like, I mean, it depends on your approach, but I think just being very forward on exactly what you want, because I often delete emails. I had like a bank messaging me the other day to change like a verification number, and it's like, to change my phone number, they were sending me an email saying, we'd love to get to know you better. And like I just had deleted every time, because I'm like, well, it's obviously going to be spam. And I kept messaging them. I was like, look, you never sent me the email to change my phone number. And then they were like, we sent it to you, we'll send you another one. And then it came through again. I was like, oh, that was the email. Like you click on it and it's like, okay, we're going to change your phone number. Like, why are you sending me an email saying, we'd love to get to know you better? Like, it literally went straight to my bin.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think these days is just straight to the point is better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's time consuming. I think that's just the main thing. You just need to be willing to do it. But once you find those good sites, it does work.
Yeah, I suppose when you're doing this, especially if you're working with clients or something like that. So anyone that's listening is like a freelancer or something, and they want to get going with this themselves. Building that database is helpful as well, isn't it? So keeping track of all those sites that you can then go back to because you built that relationship with them already.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your agenda. If you're just building for your own site, I think that the most important thing is just to keep a record of it. You never know when you're going to need the site again. Ultimately, that's what we do as well. Like we got obviously a database, we're always finding new ones. but those partnerships always serve us well, especially when we're getting new clients. And there's some amazing sites that some clients just request more and more from. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. But I do think as well now, ultimately, if you've got so many other things to focus on, focusing on outreach and stuff like that now is just a massive pain in the ass on top of everything else. That's why I think a lot of people look to just outsource it, but they spend less on it now than they used to, whereas they're spending more on their content, because you can scale the content and stuff yourself, right? It's quite easily, like just building, researching the topics, just having a writer that produces those, as well as focusing on your site. But once you're trying to do everything, it just gets a little bit tough, and I guess that things suffer. I think that's why like SEO sort of changed. I think people are now more narrowing down into what their specialty is, and then just sort of working with other people to achieve the rest.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. If people want to get in touch with you or follow you, find you, where do you want to send them?
I'd say LinkedIn, but I'm never on LinkedIn. I'd say come to Millenio and just leave a contact form or something. Just get in touch with info@millenio.co.uk. I'm always happy to help. As well, like if just anyone's got any questions, anything that we've missed, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll link to that in the show notes as well. Liam, hopefully people find this really useful. And yeah, I'll catch up with you soon.
Cool.
Thanks for coming on.
No worries, thanks for having me.